Okay, here's a huge tip that's going to help you get a lot more out of the videos and the content that I'm creating for you. If you take care of your gut health and you restore your gut, you can absorb more nutrients and more minerals, which means that your cells are going to work better and you're going to feel better. And bone broth is a huge part of that. Now, coincidentally, I've been good friends with Justin, who's the owner over at Kettle and Fire Bone Broth, for quite a while, and he sponsored this video. So big thank you to Kettle and Fire Bone Broth for making this video possible, but more importantly, for making bone broth easily accessible so that I can just get it really, really fast and not have to slave over a stove for 12 hours. So big thanks to Kettle and Fire. Let's get to the science. I'm going to cut right to the chase and give you the 4 quickest, most efficient ways to get into ketosis. Now, this is going to apply whether you're starting out on a ketogenic lifestyle or maybe you had a cheat meal and you need to get back into keto as fast as possible. Regardless, these are the 4 most surefire ways. So let's dive into some science and the fun ways to get back into keto. The first one is doing an upper and lower body part split with your workouts. And it sounds unconventional because it's not the typical way that a lot of us work out. But let me explain that it has to do with the lymph system. Okay, what we have to know is that the lymph system is a separate series of tubules throughout the body, okay, moving a fluid known as lymph. It's totally separate from the bloodstream, okay? The lymph system does not move blood. It's predominantly moving white blood cells, a little bit of protein, a few red blood cells, and for the most part, its job is to bathe our cells in nutrients, okay? It's soaking our cells in nutrients, it's also carrying around our immune system, and it's shuttling bad things away, okay? It's shuttling bacteria, it can shuttle viruses, it's everything that we need. But how does it apply to ketosis? Well, it carries fat. Believe it or not, when we consume fat, it's transported around in the lymph system before it goes into the bloodstream. So how does this apply for keto? Well, when you're thinking about it, we want to make sure we're mobilizing fat as much as possible. And since fat moves around in the lymph system, it makes a lot of sense that we'd want to, well, move it around and get it mobilized. But where does an upper and lower body split come into play? Well, you see, our lymph system starts in the legs and it works its way up. So we have to make sure that we're constantly moving it. Because what's interesting is the lymph system doesn't move with your heartbeat. Your vessels, your arteries, everything like that, they expand and contract with the heartbeat. They're moving blood. But the lymph system, nope, it relies on muscle contraction. So every time you squeeze a muscle, you flex a muscle, you're manually moving those tubules that are moving the lymph around. That's why I'm such a big fan of like foam rolling and stuff like that. It's mobilizing lymph, which is mobilizing fat. But why upper and lower? Well, because if you pump the action from the bottom up, you actually transport that lymph from the bottom all the way up. Goes through your lymph nodes in your inguinal canal, comes up into the glands here, and it processes that lymph and it processes that fat, delivers it to the liver where it can metabolize it that much faster. So you're manually assisting the mobilization of fat, getting you into ketosis faster. This next one is all about caffeine. And yeah, we know caffeine's good, but I gotta drop some science on you. So it's nerd time. All right, everyone, so this study was published in the Canadian Journal of Physiology and Pharmacology, and it was done in 2016, so it's very, very recent. And what they looked at in this study was the levels of blood ketones after certain amounts of caffeine consumption. So they looked at 2 different models. Okay, one model, they gave 2.5 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram. Okay, that's about the equivalent of 1.5 to 3 cups of coffee, all right? The second group, they gave 5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. That's more like 3 to 5 cups of coffee. Well, here's what's insane. The results were nuts. What they found was that more caffeine, the larger caffeine group, had more than double the amount of ketone bodies and free fatty acids in the bloodstream than the other group. Absolutely blown away. End research. All right, so what I mean by that is simply put, having a little bit of extra caffeine is only going to help you when it comes to keto, as long as you're able to make sure that you're not going totally overboard. But how does this help you when you're getting into keto? Well, it's going to get those fats that you are consuming mobilized faster, converting them into ketones faster, converting them back into acetyl coenzyme A faster, thereby creating more ketones and starting that steamroll effect that puts you right back in ketosis as fast as you can possibly imagine. All right, now we go into the next one, MCT oil. I'm always talking about it, but why should you double up on your MCT oil when you're going back into keto or maybe after you had a cheat meal? Simply because it doesn't have to go through the liver for processing. And I've talked about this before. Normally, when you consume a long-chain fatty acid or a regular fat, It gets broken down by pancreatic lipase, it goes through digestion, and then it has to go through the liver, and then it has to process through that lymph system that we talked about earlier, which is all fine and dandy, but then you're relying on those upper lower body splits just to get some fat mobilized. Whatever. Why not just cut to the chase and have the MCT oils that once they go through digestion, they're entered right into the bloodstream, they bypass the liver, and they get utilized immediately. MCTs are very unique. You see, they can pass through the double membrane of the mitochondria. Sounds like Greek, right? But all that really means is they can pass through the secret passageway to get into the mitochondria to produce energy, thereby creating more acetyl coenzyme A, which therefore enters the Krebs cycle, creates more ketones, creates more energy, and we don't need to go back to sophomore biology class here to know that MCTs are going to give you more energy and get you into ketosis faster. Now we go into the next one. Now this one, full disclaimer, is really, really good if you are already in ketosis and you went out of ketosis and you're trying to get back in. It may not be the best for someone that's first trying to get in, and that's fasting. And I explain why it's good for someone that's already in keto. When you fast, your body secretes glucagon, okay? Glucagon signals your muscles to dump the excess glycogen, that's the carbohydrate that's stored in the muscle, into the bloodstream so that it can burn it up. Well, what happens once that glycogen's already burned up? You've used all the carbs. Well, the next thing, it's going to start breaking down protein, it's going to break down fats. Don't freak out, it's not going to break down a ton of protein, you'll be fine, it's not going to burn up all your muscle, okay? It's going to more than likely create ketone bodies. But here's the thing, if you're already keto adapted, meaning you've already been in ketosis and you went out and now you're getting back in, you are much more apt to go straight to ketone utilization when you're fasting than if you were not keto adapted. Meaning your body's used to running on fats, so its default when you're fasting is to pull fats rather than pull carbs. So you have a much higher chance of keeping your muscle volume, keeping the carbs in your muscles, and going straight to fat utilization. Now I recommend fasting for anywhere from 18 to 24 hours to really get a good benefit. You can go longer. I mean, after 40 hours, you start getting all kinds of immune system benefits, but that might be a little bit overkill for just having a piece of cheesecake or something. But anyway, this is how it's done. These are the 4 simple ways to get back into keto or to introduce ketosis to your life and get into that state where you're feeling great, you have energy, and your body becomes the fat-burning furnace, not to sound totally cliche. Comment below, let me know what you think. If you have any questions or you have any ideas for future videos, hit them below. I make sure that my team and I always read those so we know what to produce to keep you locked in here on the Thomas DeLauer channel. I'll see you soon.